This from MLB.com. Headline: MLB Pipeline Pitching Lab. Blade Tidwell. Now, before we get into this video, if you're a Mets fan, you need to subscribe to this channel because I talk about the Mets prospects and Mets minor leaguers. So if you want to know what the Mets are doing down on the farm, this is the channel you need to subscribe. You can hit that subscribe button. Very important. There is a lot of focus on the position player prospects in the Mets organization these days, and rightfully so. The organization added Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, Ryan Clifford, and Marco Vargas, among others, at the trade deadline, building out a system that has seen a breakout from Jet Williams and the major league arrival of Ronnie Mauricio. But there are arms too, including number 10 prospect Blade Tidwell, who has flashed impressive arsenal early in his career. Taken in the second round last year out of Tennessee, the 22-year-old right-hander sports a 31.5% strikeout rate from High A Brooklyn and Double A Binghamton this season, a number that ranks 6th among 182 minor league full season qualifiers. His 3.42 ERA trails only Tyler Stewart's 2.2 among Mets minor league qualifiers, and also after tossing 5 scoreless frames, during which he punched out 9 Tuesday against Reading. He's up to a robust 115 2/3 his first full season with the Eastern League, postseason still to come. Quote, Blade was blessed with really good stuff, said Binghamton pitching coach A.J. Sager. He focuses very well, prepares very well, does everything to check every box. He just needs experience, and that's what we're trying to give him. Speaking ahead of the game of the month in August at Binghamton's Mirabito Stadium, Tidwell walked MLB Pipeline through his 4 pitches. Their grips were made them work across 2 levels in 2023. His fastball. The right-hander, high school teammate of Ryan Weathers at Loretta, Tennessee High School, went unselected in the shortened 5-round 2020 MLB draft and headed to the University of Tennessee with a fastball that could touch the low 90s but needed instant work with his movement profile. In college, I had a flat heater that hitters probably licked their chops before they went to the batter's box to face, he said. But now I fixed it to where it had more ride. So my axis, instead of being flat, it's more where I can backspin the ball. It stays on plane long, so if it's at the belt, there's a lot of swing and miss under it. Then if it's at the knees, there are a lot of takes because they think it's going to be below the zone. Tidwell noted that the change occurred in his 4-seamer between his freshman and sophomore years as a volunteer, and K rate jumping from 22.2% in 21 to 32.3% a year later bears that out. These days, he can touch 98 miles per hour, but it says he's at his best when the fastball averages around 95. He aims for 18 inches of induced vertical break and gets the occasional 22 inches, which can lead to some ugly swings on pitches in the upper third or above the zone. Just don't expect him to run the iPad in the middle of a start to see how his fastball is clocking in. Quote, I'm an analytical psychopath during the week, he said. And then during the game, I don't look at it. I think that's the good balance. Go out there and be a competitor whenever the time comes. But if you can do that and then the analytical later, I think that is most beneficial. A lot of people have trouble separating the two, and that's where it can get a little bit tricky. His slider. The slider has been considered Tidwell's second 60-grade pitch since his day as a volunteer. But the breaker he throws now is different than the one from his days in Knoxville. About a week after getting to the Mets facility in Port St. Lucie following the draft, he was having difficulty finding consistency with the slider, and expressed that to then Mets complex pitching coordinator and current AAA pitching coach Kyle Driscoll, who offered a new grip similar to a 2-seamer with 4 fingers slightly offset the seams. Tidwell adjusted his thumb further toward the side of the ball for additional comfort and knew quickly this was the new look slider for him. Quote, I threw it and my catch partner missed it, said Tidwell, who added that he believes said partner was 6'10" pitcher Paul Gervasi. And then I never threw my other one again. I completely bagged it. And the year plus, Tidwell has thrown the semi-new low 80s slider that has continued to fall into the categorization of a pitch with which many baseball fans are becoming more familiar. I have a sweeper with an unorthodox grip, he said. My ball stays on plane kind of like a cutter, but sweeps quite a bit more, anywhere from 13 to 20 inches. That means it just goes and takes a left turn, whereas a lot of pitchers have depth on theirs. So I get a lot of swing and miss under and over. Just depends on where the pitch is located, which works to my advantage. Curveball. The slider isn't Tidwell's only effective breaker, although there are days when it truly dominates. The hurler knows that he's long been tinkering with a curveball and locked in the field around June and July of this summer. The grip starts with a four-seam look with two primary fingers tucked tightly on the rounded part of the horseshoe. That's how I threw my slider in college, except I rotate the ball a little downward so I can get more depth, and that way it's more like a slurve, he said. It's that added layer of depth that separates the curve from the slider. The two pitches can bleed into one another, although the curveball typically dips more into the 70s, but even the smallest difference can keep a hitter from getting too comfortable. Tidwell knows that in an August 22nd start at New Hampshire, he threw 10 to 12 curveballs up from his typical usage because he was starting to feel more consistency with it. You have to get a feel for things, and it's just really good, so that's what I roll with, he said. I like going back-to-back curveball, slider, curveball, because the depth's different, but the speeds are similar. Changeup. I think I'm a little weird, and it's a little weird. Ask a Mets official about what Tidwell has done best in 23, and many will say developing the cambio has been big. But that take from the pitcher himself on his new changeup grip is a unique one. Brooklyn pitching coach Victor Ramos taught Tidwell the grip he used during the time on the bump. The pointer and right fingers rest on the middle edges of the ball, with the middle finger placed directly on top before the ball rotates toward the outside of the hand. And the prospect latched on, perhaps only partly because of his personality. When I come through, I can feel it come off this finger and get that side spin that kills vert, he said. The upper 70s to low 80s pitch once averaged around 70 inches of IVB, which isn't ideal for an offering that needs to dip below bats, but now the average settles in around 1 inch with the occasional negative IVB popping up in the analytics. The effectiveness remains a work in progress. Double-A lefties are hitting 317, 394, 556 off Tidwell since his Binghamton arrival on August 2nd, compared to the 167, 306, 383 line put up by righties over the same 7 starts. But finding something Tidwell can be comfortable with is half the battle. It's probably my favorite thing to throw right now, maybe because it's newer.